This video will show you how to make satisfying rigid body simulations in Blender. Please watch it up to the very end. When you open Blender, first press Tab to go to the Edit mode. Press 3 to switch to face selection, then select this face and press Delete, then select faces to delete them. Press A to select all, then press S to scale them up. Press S then Z to scale it down a little along the Z. Now press Tab to go back to the object mode. Press Shift to then go to Mesh and add a UV sphere. Press S to scale it down. Expand on this timeline, then go to the physics properties. Click on Rigid Body to add a rigid body physics to it. Select this cube, then come to the physics properties, then add a rigid body physics to it as well. Switch the type from active to passive. Now if you play it, you can see that the sphere just disappears instead of falling to the ground. To fix that, come to Shape and change it from Convex Hull to Mesh. Now if you play it, you can see it falling down. Select the sphere and come to the timeline, then go back to the first frame. Now go to the physics properties and click on this drop-down arrow on surface response, then reduce on this friction and increase on the bounciness. If you play it, you can see that nothing has changed. So go back to frame 0, then select this cube 2 and reduce on its friction, then increase on bounciness as well. Now if you play, you can see it bounce a little and sliding. So go back to frame 0, then select the sphere, then press G then Z to move it up along the Z. If you play it now, you can see it bouncing and sliding. Now select the cube and increase on its bounciness. If you play it, you can see the sphere even bouncing more. Now select the cube and come to Physics Properties, then click on this drop-down arrow on Sensitivity. Click on this X to go to a side view. Now if you play it and pause it just where it hits the ground, then zoom in, you can see that it doesn't really touch the ground. To fix that, come to the Physics Properties and reduce on this sensitivity margin. Select the sphere 2, then activate collision margin, then reduce it here as well. Now if you play it, you can see that the gap has reduced. You can adjust on this value for both the active and passive objects until the results look okay to you. So now come to the scene properties, then click on this drop-down arrow on rigid body. Scroll down, then reduce on the speed to make the simulation run slower. Now if you play it, you can see that the ball is moving slower. If you reduce it even more, you'll see it moving even slower, so leave it at a speed of your liking. Now click on this drop-down arrow on Cache, then increase the simulation end value to 300. Come to the timeline and increase on the animation frame range to 300. Select this sphere and go back to the first frame, then click on this X to go to a side view. Press S to scale it down a little. Now go to Object and shade it Auto Smooth. Press Shift D then Y to duplicate it along the Y. Press Shift R a few times to repeat the action until the balls fit the length of the cube. Select all these spheres, then press G then Y to move them along the Y up to this position. Press S to scale them down a bit. If you play them now, you'll see that they are all bouncing. So go back to frame 0, then press Shift D then Z to duplicate them along the Z, leaving a little gap between them. Press Shift R a few times to repeat the action. Select all the spheres and click on this Y to go to another side view. Press Shift D then X to duplicate them along the X. Press Shift R to repeat the action. Press Shift D then X to duplicate them here along the X-axis. Press Shift D then X again to duplicate them in front here along the X. Now if you play it, you can see that the simulation is very slow, so we'll have to first bake. So come here to Scene Properties under Cache, then bake the simulation. Now if you play it, you can see them nicely falling onto each other, but for my case the simulation seems very slow. So let's delete the bake and come back to the speed and increase it to about 0.6, then click on Bake to bake the simulation again. Now if I play it, you can see that the speed is okay. But since we want the simulation to last longer, we will need more balls. So click on this X to go to a side view. Turn on X-ray visibility, then select all the balls. Hold Shift, then click on this lamp to deselect it in case you selected it by mistake. Press Shift D then Z to duplicate them along the Z. Now delete this bake and bake the simulation again. Now if you turn off X-ray visibility and play it, you can see that the result looks fine. So click on this camera icon to switch to the camera view. Press N to make the sidebar visible, then go to View, then under Lock activate Camera to View. Move it around for a nice camera view. You can now press N again and deactivate Lock Camera to View. Now if you play it, you can see that the camera is playing it well. Select this cube and disable its viewport and render visibility. Now we just have our balls doing their thing. You can now go ahead to work on your scene further and render. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial up to now, I really appreciate. If you found this video useful, please consider subscribing to this channel and hit the notification bell so that you never miss out on our latest content. Also let us know what you want us to teach you about Blender in the comments. I promise we'll make a video. Have fun animating. I sign out.